Hi, this is part 2 of a serious video I'm doing about a crook that gets up there and pretends like he's some kind of prophet and takes money from people. And I've already done what you missed in the first part, and you'll have to go back and see it because I'm not going to do it again for you people. But it's his website, and I tell you some of the crazy, ridiculous things he said. So I'm going to tell you more now, and then there'll be 1/3 video. They say it changes when the sun goes down. That's when all these videos are on TV at 2, 3 in the morning.
And what a scummy man. Just give him half a chance, I bet he'll rob you if he can see it in his eyes, yeah, that he's got a nasty plan. I hope you're not involved at all.
Okay, so now we're talking about Mr. Peter Popoff, and apparently that's his real name. And I'm going to tell you kind of about his history. He's born in 1946 in Germany, we think. That's what he says. It says he today is a televangelist, a debunked clairvoyant, and a faith healer. In 1986, he was using a concealed earpiece to receive radio messages from his wife, who gave him the names. Who would give him, sorry, I was looking for her name, but I don't think we care about her. I don't care about him, but I care what he's doing to people. She would give him the names, addresses, and ailments of audience members during a Popoff-led religious service. So he would give that information out. He falsely claimed that God revealed that information to him so he could pretend to cure them through faith healing. This is just a little overview. He went bankrupt the next year, so that would be in 87. But he made a comeback in the late 1990s. Beginning in the mid-2000s, he bought TV time to promote his Miracle Spring Water, which is the ad I saw last night. You have to go back to the first video. And there he referred to himself as the prophet. There's a foundation called the Trinity Foundation, and they do investigate things that might be scams in the religious order, the church order. And the founder of it said he's investigated Popoff and other faith healers since 1987, but Popoff scams are endless. He comes up with another one. His Miracle Spring Water promotions are still running on AMC Network, so I hate to tell you, but they're running on a main network in there because I saw it last night. So that's just an overview. Now I'm going to go back and tell you a little bit more. Elizabeth is his wife's name. He's got 3 kids who have grown up the same way he has. Okay, he was born in occupied East Germany on July 2nd, 1946, to George and Gerda Popoff. As a child, they immigrated to the United States, where he attended, doesn't matter where he attended a Chaffee College and transferred to the University of California, Santa Barbara, and he graduated from there in 1970. His dad would go around and preach at revival meetings throughout the United States. So beginning in 1960, Popoff also started making appearances as a preacher. He was billed as the Miracle Boy Evangelist in the print advertisements. The ads also claimed that he was born in a West Berlin bomb shelter. He had been rescued from a Siberian prison camp, and his powers included the abilities to heal the sick and foretell the future. Lies, lies, tell me sweet little lies. He married Elizabeth in August of 1971, and they settled in Upland, California, which I think is where he still is. He then began a TV ministry that by the 1980s was being broadcast nationally. His big glory time was the 1980s. His miraculous curing of chronic and incurable medical conditions became a central attraction of his sermons. His miraculous curing, Popoff would tell attendees suffering from a variety of illnesses to break free of the devil you won't believe this, but you will. Break free of the devil by throwing their prescription pills onto the stage. And many would obey, and they would toss bottles of digitalis and nitroglycerin and other important medicines that they needed to have to live. Because he's going to cure them with something miraculous. Then, the more I say this, the madder I get. Okay? Then he would command people in wheelchairs to rise and break free. And they would. They'd stand up and walk without assistance. You've seen those commercials. Everybody. It was later documented that the recipients of these, quote, dramatic cures were fully ambulatory people. That means they could walk fine. Who had been seated in wheelchairs by Popoff assistants prior to broadcast. 1985, Popoff began... wait a minute, I have to get a serious face when I say this. Get my hair ready. Because this is serious stuff here. 1985, Popoff began soliciting donations for a program providing Bibles to the citizens of the Soviet Union by attaching them to helium-filled balloons and floating them down into the country. When skeptics asked him to prove that the money he had collected had, in fact, been used for the balloons and the helium, he staged is a word I have trouble saying. It's when you rob someone, burglary. Help me out, say it in your own heads, because I can't say it. He staged it at his own headquarters. And then after that, so he couldn't prove anything because everything got stolen. And then after that, he got on broadcast and got all these tears in his eyes and begged for additional donations to help repair the damage of the people breaking in. And it was him. It's proven. Oh, my. At the height of his popularity in the 1980s, Popoff would accurately announce home addresses and specific illnesses of audience members during his, quote, healing sermons, a feat that he implied was done due to divine revelation and God-given ability. In 1986, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry charged that Popoff was using electrical transmissions to receive his information. He denied it, of course, and he said the messages were divinely revealed. Skeptic groups distributed pamphlets explaining how his feats could be accomplished without using any sort of divine intervention. And he branded his critics as tools of the devil. So I'm sure he's not going to see a video from a little country hillbilly school teacher in southern Indiana, but if he does, he's probably going to label me a tool of the devil. Woo! Sorry about that. I had my hair looking okay, now it's awful. Then in 1986, I just talked about Johnny Carson last night. In 1986, there was a magician and a skeptic named James Randi, R-A-N-D-I, and his associate Steve Shaw, an illusionist professionally known as Banachek. And They got some assistance from a crime scene analysis and electronics expert named Alexander Jason. And then with computerized radio scanners, Jason was able to demonstrate that Popoff's wife, Elizabeth, was in fact using a wireless radio transmitter to broadcast information that she and her aides had called, C-U-L-L-E-D, I just had that new word the other day, that they had gotten from prayer request cards filled out by audience members. How dirty is that? And he received these through his earpiece that he was wearing, and then he repeated that information to all the astonished people out in his crowd. So Jason was able to produce video segments interspersing the intercepted radio transmissions with Popoff's miraculous pronouncements. Also, there were three guys trying to do an undercover investigation. One of them, Randy, R-A-N-D-I, presented one of I skipped a little bit. We don't want to skip that. Let me come back to that in 1 second. They also planted accomplices in the audience, including a man dressed like a woman who Popoff cured of uterine cancer at a meeting in Detroit in 1984. Let me say it again. They planted someone in the audience who was really a man dressed like a woman and who Popoff, quote, cured of uterine cancer at a meeting in Detroit in 1984. Oh, the power of God is tremendous, isn't it? Randy and Shaw recorded, I won't use this word, but you'll know what this word means. It's just repulsive. But Randy and Shaw recorded Elizabeth, his wife, describing a woman to Popoff in the back because he wanted, whatever, she's describing this woman in the back, and she said, as, quote, that big N word in the back, and warning him, quote, well, the quote was that big, and then the N word in the back, and then warning him, quote, keep your hands off those tits. I'm watching you. And then at another session, Elizabeth and her aides were heard laughing uncontrollably at the physical appearance of a man suffering from advanced cancer. All these words are words I know what they are and I can't say. Cancer of the testicles. Testicular. There, I got it. Okay? And I'm not silly. I just had a speech problem when I was young, and a few words pop up every once in a while, and about 3 of them have popped up today. In May, this is what I'm going to tell you. In May of 1986, Randy presented one of Jason's videos that he had taken on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Popoff initially denied Randy's accusations and accused NBC of hiring an actress to impersonate Mrs. Popoff on a doctored videotape. Eventually, Popoff admitted the existence of a radio device, but claimed that Elizabeth only, quote, occasionally gave him the name of the person who needs special prayers. He also added that almost, quote, that everybody, quote, knew about the wireless communication system, meaning his crowd. No. His ministry viewing ratings and donations declined significantly after the Johnny Carson show aired. And in September of 1987, he declared bankruptcy, listing more than 790 unpaid creditors. Jason's video footage was also aired on the Nova show, capital N, capital O, capital V, capital A, on an episode called Secrets of the Psychics in 1991. So the episode was released on video as a part of a lesson in critical thinking. And I did go to Nova a while ago, and you can go back and pull up issues from earlier, and I didn't take time to pull it up, but maybe you can. A former associate of Popoff's from 1965 to 1990 said, kind of taking up for his boss, quote, "When you're praying for the sick, it's through the Holy Spirit. And there's just sometimes that it works freely, and then there are other times when the Spirit's just not there." He went on to say that on, quote, "the days it didn't show, you still had to pay for the auditorium, so you needed to help the Holy Spirit along." Yeah. $1998. I hope you're keeping track of these years. I'm going to remind you of them in just a minute. 1998, the Washington Post reported that Popoff was making a comeback, seeking to jumpstart his ministry by repackaging himself for an African American audience after he used the N-word. Buying time on the Black Entertainment Television Network. And he took a lot of flack, he and two of his cohorts, on having this long trail of disillusioned people and then getting time on a network that prides itself as a model of entrepreneurship for the black community. Okay, keep the dates in mind. February 2007, Inside Edition has a segment that said his new infomercials depict him as healing the sick in a manner identical to his methods prior to when James Randi exposed him. Victims were interviewed, including a married couple who charged Popoff had taken thousands of dollars from them. Popoff refused to comment. Flim Flam is his profession, that Randy, who's investigating him, said to the host. That's what he does best. He's good at it. And naturally, he's going to go back to it. In May of 2007, ABC's 2020 focused on Popoff's comeback and explored the lies of a few people who he cheated. Various other media outlets have run stories. In July 2008, a British Columbia resident was actually reimbursed by Popoff after she went public with her concerns over his fundraising tactics. 2008, the UK Broadcasting issued strong warnings to broadcasters for transmitting his material. 2009, he was running advertisements in the UK offering a free cross containing blessed water and holy sand, holy, H-O-L-Y, holy sand. The water, he said, this is unreal. He said the water was drawn from a spring near the Chernobyl nuclear site, which is in the news a lot right now because of the Russians taking that. Animals and humans were drinking the water from the spring were reportedly spared from radiation sickness. And responders to the ad received a small little wooden cross that bearing the inscription Jerusalem and a solicitation for donations, followed by numerous additional solicitation letters, which is the whole point of how he makes his money. Popoff was designated by the James Randall Education Foundation as one of its recipients of the 2011 Pigasus Award, P-I-G-A-S-U-S Award for fraudulent practices. Oh, along with Mehmet Moss from the Dr. Oz show. Oh, anyway. In September 2015, Michael Marshall of the Good Thinking Society documented Popoff's latest promises of, quote, fabulous extreme fortune and miracles in exchange for donations to his organization. At a London gathering, GTS filmed Popoff, quote, healing a woman supposedly racked with pain. Though Marshall and a colleague had previously seen her in no obvious distress, handing out pens and questionnaires to the audience members. And then soon after the healing took place, they watched her quietly leave the room. What I saw last night on TV, my own self, my own eyes, he started in the mid 2000s to offer miracle spring water on late night infomercials in US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So he has a far outreach. If you responded, and I showed you his website a while ago, you were promised miraculous protection from disease and disability, along with financial prosperity. You got the whole meal deal, which might include divine money transfers directly into your account. If you slept with the water for one night before drinking it and then prayed over the empty package and you sent it back to Popoff with a donation, then multiple solicitation letters would follow requesting more donations in exchange for miracles. And that's when he started referring to himself as a prophet. Just about done here on this section. I really have to contain myself from using terms that aren't too nice as I go through this. Popoff's operation had functioned as a for-profit operation company until 2006. And remember, if it's a for-profit, they've got to do IRS stuff and turn in stuff, and he didn't like doing that. So he found a little small church in Texas, in Farmers Branch, Texas, called the Word for the World, and it operated out of a storefront. So now he merged with it, and his group is classified as a church. So it's nonprofit. So he no longer has to report an annual income or salary to the IRS. It says when the reporter from GQ attempted to visit the church on a Sunday morning in late 2016, he found a deserted parking lot in an industrial park with no church sign visible on the outside. Because of Popoff's history of fraud and financial irregularities, his group now is called, and it says on his website, his new group, because he just keeps forming groups, is called People United for Christ. If you hear that word, People United for Christ, as the name of a religious organization, run as far as you can the other way. That's Peter Popoff. They earned a did not disclose rating from the Better Business Bureau because they refused to give any information to them. And his two helpers that have been with him for years, longtime assistants. They were married. Their name was, and this is important, Reverend, Reeford, and Cheryl, that's not right, Reverend and Pamela, Sherrell, Sherrell, maybe. They started their own little televised ministry in Texas. And the name that Reeford came up with is Pastor Lee Sherrell. Like Popoff, he used the offer of a little religious trinket, his was a free prayer cloth, Popoff was a little cross that said Jerusalem on it. And what they do that for is to compile a address list. That's what they want. So once a follower requested a prayer cloth or with Popoff a little cross, and they input their addresses, letters asking for money were dispatched. And they even compared him to other televangelists who I won't name because they might be a little bit better than him. But they said in the case of Popoff, quote, he's fundamentally evil because he knows he's a con man. Two more real quick things, and I'm going to end this video. I'm sorry they're so long, but I have to tell people what happened. This is my duty in life. Financial details. There's not a whole lot. But he was collecting almost $4 million a year in the late 1980s, according to Randy that did this Randy or whatever, did the investigation. In 2003, his ministry received over 9.6 million. 2005, listen to this, people, over $23 million. In that year, he and his wife were paid a combination salary of nearly $1 million, while his two children received over $180,000 each. Now, since they changed to a non-profit business in 2006, guess what? It's tax exempt. Popoff purchased a home in Bradbury, California for $4.5 million in 2007. He drives a Porsche and a Mercedes-Benz. There have been some movies kind of based on him. If you ever saw Leap of Faith with Steve Martin, that was kind of based on his character. In the movie Fletch Lives, they took the radio transmitter incident and kind of parodied that. So, I guess that's it for this. I got one more thing to do, and hopefully I'm educating myself, for sure. And hopefully I'm educating some of you, and it's not funny and all that stuff. So I'm going to sign off. We're going to do the last one. The last one won't be as long. The middle one's that long. Be back in just a minute.